This week on the NixMyth Podcast, we're talking about distraction. Hey, focus right here. I said distraction. Okay, yeah, that was a little lame. But check out the episode anyway.
Hey, we are your hosts, Nick Smith.
And Kylie Jo Smith. And today we are going to try not to be distracted.
Trying our best.
As we talk about this.
About distraction. But before we get too distracted from the point, Inner Circle, what's happening? How y'all doing?
We were not distracted from shouting you out.
Nope, definitely not. I feel weird. I don't have anything in my hands. I'm like, where's my coffee cup? I don't have my water.
What do I do with my hands?
What do I? The whole episode, I'm just gonna be like, I don't know what to do with these
hopefully
things.
It won't be too distracting.
I'm gonna just talk with my hands like I used to talk with my hands a lot, and so then I started to get anyway.
It works.
All
you
right.
can put them below the table like I do, so it looks like you're not moving at all.
No, because
really,
then
I'm just silently clapping the whole time. Yes, applause.
That was a good point. Good point. All right, so we're talking about distraction today.
Yeah.
And I suffer from distraction a lot.
I'm so glad that you are all here so that we can address Nick's issue.
The first, what is the first step? Is admitting you have a problem.
Mm-hmm.
And I distract myself a lot. And I don't always know why, but I know why. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
It's like I don't always exactly know what's going on, but I know kind of the root kind of cause of my own distraction.
I don't always know why I get distracted.
But when I do. No, for me, it's, so let's just, first off,
okay.
Why is distraction a problem?
Well, it keeps you from doing the thing that you want to do. Like being distracted gets us, I mean, literally you have a track you're on. Get distracted. And so.
You know, I never put that together. I know that sounds very dumb of me, but I've never actually thought distracted being two different words. So
I just made it up.
My mind just blew. No, I'm pretty sure you're 100% right.
But like you have a goal and you have a thing in mind, and then the distraction takes you away from that.
Yeah.
It is a negative thing. Like I think a lot of times we're like so fixed on labeling things like having attention deficit, like ADHD or ADD, that we miss the like bigger picture of like, well, it's not just that your attention is lacking. It's like you don't have the focus. Maybe you don't have the right mental focus.
Yeah. Well, I've noticed for myself. So the root cause of distraction for me is wanting a brain break. And then whatever I choose to engage in for that brain break is not productive. And it leads me down rabbit holes.
Like numbing.
Yeah. And it happens. I get distracted at times when I'm not intentional about my brain breaks, like the time that I need just to chill, even if the time is to do nothing.
Yep.
I'm not intentional about, okay, this is the time I'm doing nothing. It's just like, oh, I've got 5 minutes. Let me pull out my phone or let me stare aimlessly out in space. Y'all, the phone is the biggest distraction.
It is.
And it's not the phone's fault. It's just technology. It just does what we tell it to do. But having for me, it's always funny pictures or like memes or funny stories, like things that make me laugh, that kind of gets me. It's like, you know what, I want to laugh. And then I pull out and I'm like, oh, but that's interesting. Oh, that's interesting. Oh, that's interesting. Oh, that. Yeah. And you're like, wait, have I been looking at my phone for 20 minutes?
Yeah.
Like, what is going on?
And the constant communication that our world really requires of us at times, like depending on the job you have or how close you live with your family. Maybe you're like across a couple states or countries. And we have that phone as like a way to connect with people. And so it's on one hand, it's utilitarian. On the other hand, we're using like it becomes the thing that like numbs us and distracts us because we're using it for too much and like we're relying on it too much. And there are those of you that are like, oh wow, she's starting to sound a little. I'm not saying the phone is evil. Like I think because we rely on it so much for the things that are like good, it can easily become that thing we go to in those moments where we need something deeper.
Yeah, and so what you touched on with communication, I want to kind of bring to a thought that we had a long time ago that I haven't thought about in a while, but it just came up is sometimes communication can be the distraction. So especially when you're on, we've noticed this whenever we're on a specific path or we're like engaged in something. It happened a lot more when we were in the pastorate, but whenever we would like a big thing that took a lot of our focus and a lot of our attention, there would always be kind of time wasters, like people that not that the person is a time waster in and of themselves, like that essence of that person.
Right.
But someone who our interaction is never really productive.
Yep.
And all it does is really drain energy from
Yep.
me and drain attention from me and
Yep.
drain, like, I'm trying to focus on this and never fails. A knock at the door or a
Mhm.
ring on the phone or a little bing, whatever it's called, notification noise. I don't know.
Bing.
A doot happens. And then I'm distracted on a lesser thing.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of the root of distraction is they are always lesser things.
Yes.
It's hard. You
Mhm.
can't really be distracted by something more important.
Oh yeah, because we don't call that a distraction. We call
No.
that like a redirection.
Yeah,
or,
repurpose.
yeah, like, and usually distraction happens in the midst of something. It's not like, oh, I completed the task. Now I'm being like, now something else has caught my attention. It's like I'm in the middle of doing something that matters, or there's a deadline, or there's some value attached to completing the task. And now I'm shifting focus to something else. And honestly, there's one area that I feel like I have fought calling it distraction.
Okay.
Because I still view it as like part of the process. It's when I'm cleaning the house. and my husband lovingly has pointed this out to me. I will start in a room, and please tell me if you experience this. I need to know I'm not alone.
It's not just you.
I go and I pick up the thing, and I'm like, oh, this goes in the other room. I go to the other room, but in order to put the thing away, there's something else in the way. So I have to move that thing. Oh, now this needs to go back. Like, I find myself in this endless journey of putting things back where they belong, but it feels like distraction. It's like, oh shoot, now I have to, okay, wait, put that down. Now I'm going to go. And it's like, it causes my brain to just shut down to where I'm like, okay, just forget it, whatever. We'll just put things in a pile and we'll just survive that way.
And we'll get through with all these piles.
We'll get through life. People do it all the time. We'll just pile everything up.
It's fine.
And
no
we know
big
where
deal.
it is.
Just pile away. Well, and I think that's understandable. And I know you're not the only one. I've done that before. Like, it happens. But I think one of the not root causes, but there are several root causes to distraction. And if you suffer from being distracted easily, maybe you can relate to some of this stuff. But some of the things that kind of came to mind, one, dissatisfaction. So being like not being satisfied with where you are, not being content. Now, this is different than, I'm not saying settling for lesser than situations.
Right.
I'm saying like Paul said, contentment with godliness is great gain. And when you are discontent and you're not in the moment, like you're always looking for something else or something different or something more, it's so easy to get distracted because you're so dissatisfied with the now that you're looking beyond that without actually accomplishing the now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so I think dissatisfaction is a big one.
That is a big one. And also, like, not having frustration tolerance. I
Yes.
think like when we don't allow ourselves to understand that there are steps in a process, maybe even another cause of this could be not knowing the longevity that's required for a task. And so then you find yourself being like almost burn out. Like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize this was going to be all of that. And so now, you know what, I'm going to table this for a little while. I'm going to go to this thing. And we can look at some people that maybe we know in our lives. I'm saying we, like the royal we, that are those like jack of all trade, master of none, where it's like, how many times are we going to restart this thing? Because didn't you start that already? But then you did this thing and now you're doing that thing. And I don't really know where, and it's like, there's all these, I imagine like a map with like the pin over here and then the line over here. And then like, where are you going with this job here? Did you not realize like no one told you or mentored you to show you that, hey, if you start here and you want to get here, it's going to take some time.
Yeah.
So don't get distracted by the setbacks.
Yeah.
Don't get distracted by the moments where, you know, it's harder for you than you expected. Kylie Joe, that frustration is needed to sustain you all the way to the completion of what you're wanting.
When I think discouragement is part of that as well. Like I'm discouraged and I don't want to live in that. So I'm going to distract myself from the discouragement, not necessarily from the task. It's from the sense of failure or the sense of rejection or whatever that's discouraging me.
Yeah.
I need distraction from that. But what you're talking about as far as like not having that frustration tolerance also echoes back to having a lack of defined expectations.
Oof.
And so not being able to purpose yourself because of the goal that you've defined or a goal that's been defined by whatever track you're on, and then not moving forward with those expectations.
Yeah.
Clearly defined. Okay, I know that I have to go through this, or I know, you know, in order to become a doctor, I've got to go to school for 8 years. You don't look up at like year six and be like, why am I still here?
Yeah.
I guess I'm going to do something else. No, you're almost there. Like, you just continue.
Yeah.
And so you have to know kind of what that defined expectation is. In order
to be measurable.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And SMART goals and all that stuff. Like, it's, if you don't know what SMART goals are, we'll talk about it at some point, I'm sure. But yeah, you have to have your expectations measured and clearly defined.
Yeah. And accountability. I think that's, I don't think necessarily not having accountability ability causes us to be distracted, but it makes it more likely that we be.
Yeah, it's easier.
It's like when you don't have someone who knows what your goal is, who has challenged you to set that goal intelligently, and then will be there walking with you to say, hey, hold on. You're over here. Remember, we get back over here.
Yeah.
I think of it like when we're going through like handwriting stuff with our oldest. Does not like handwriting. It's like his least favorite.
No.
But loves art and loves to like create new things. And so we're trying to tie the two together. But like we'll say, okay, let's answer this question, write this word. And 20 minutes later, which is too long, really, in my opinion. It's like, okay, we have one letter. All right. So let's.
Or we've completed. I think I timed it. It took him a minute and a half to write like a one word.
Okay. So we're getting better.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's like we have to sit there with him. Okay, buddy, don't get distracted. Like let's focus on finishing the word. How many letters is the word? What is the word? Let's sound it out. Like all these different tools. But because we're holding him accountable in the moment, he's less likely to trail off and then find himself walking around the house picking up toys.
Yeah.
But if you don't have that accountability, distraction is really, and it's tempting. It's like, oh man, I'll just get on Facebook for like 5 minutes. I'll just check my.
Which turns into like 5
I'll check my
hours.
notifications. That's what everyone says.
It's
I'm just checking my notifications.
Don't fall into that lie.
You're not checking your notifications. You're gonna scroll. You're gonna go to that person's page and that person's page. You're gonna scroll. You're gonna be
gotta
Facebook
wish these
stalking
people
some
a happy birthday. You gotta get on Instagram
like,
now.
Shoot, I forgot to.
Got
I gotta.
messages.
And then you're gonna remember you have a bill to pay. You're gonna go and get on your bank statement. Like all those things, just from I'm gonna check my notifications.
Yeah.
When the biggest notification is like you are off track.
Yeah. No, that's 100% correct. And I think for kind of taking it macro, I think our tendency to distraction is reflected in mission and ministry, is reflected in purpose of any organization we're in. Because there are so many times when you're a part of a group, specifically the local church, where you can get so distracted by minute things, or like things that are not even, shouldn't be an issue.
Yep.
They'll distract you and derail you from the purpose. And so you have to be, I think one of the things that keeps, they were kind of moving into practical, like undistracting yourself, retracting your, that means something different.
That's weird. No, don't do that.
But getting undistracted, right? Refocusing. That's what I'm trying to say.
Refocus. There we go. Good word.
Getting refocused. You have to know your purpose. You have to know your why. You have to know, why am I doing this task? Because if you know your why, then it's so much easier to cut away the dross, to cut away the things that are distractions. And it's a lot easier to identify the distractions before they become distractions.
Yeah.
When you're purposeful about your time, when you have a direction you're headed, it's a lot easier to see the trails that are leading you away from that. But if you don't know where you're going, any trail looks like the right trail. Any path looks like the right path. And so you're like, well, I guess I'll go down here. We'll see. And I guess I want to do a caveat here, because a distraction is different than an interruption.
Ooh, that's good.
So a distraction takes you off the path. An interruption pauses your progress. So there's a difference. Like ministry happens in the interruptions, and whether or not you're a pastor or whatever, if you're a believer in Christ, you are in ministry. And so when you are, focused on one task, and you get a phone call and somebody's in crisis, like that's an interruption to what you were doing. That's not a distraction. And mostly interruptions will be to a greater end. They won't be a path that is like taking you away from your greatest end.
They'll add value to the process.
Exactly.
Adds value to you as an individual, but also to the work that you're finishing.
Yeah, that's right.
being finished in you, because he who began a great work in you,
he gonna finish it.
I'm just saying. And honestly, you're talking about refocusing. When you go to the eye doctor and you're getting your yearly whatever.
Oh, I got to do that. Speaking of,
thank
you for the reminder.
They're going to ask you to read something, and they'll switch the lenses that you're looking through. You can't refocus without changing the lens. You can't change how you see something without first starting with like, well, what's my view of this?
Yeah.
How am I prioritizing this? Is this important to me? Like, be honest. Stephen Covey, like, look how you spend your time. Is that goal really what your goal is? Or what?
It sounded like you're talking to Stephen Covey. I know you were giving a shout out to the book,
Steve,
7 Habits of Highly Effective People. But
Mr. Covey,
Stephen, pay attention, all right?
Stephen Covey, put the pencil down. Listen to what I'm saying. No, but like his book about highly effective people,
yeah,
or highly effective teens, whichever one you've read, talks about that. Like, don't just say this is important to me and then put it on paper and expect that to be like how you define your goals. You actually have to look at how you already spend your time.
Yeah,
and like understand the lens that you're coming to the world with. And as believers in Christ, we come with a biblical worldview. We come to say, okay, this is how the world is. This is how God operates. This is my main purpose, like the macro purpose of all believers, to show the glory of God so that all creation will be redeemed. Like all of these things that we know up here.
Yeah.
But then what is that heart fire? What is that thing that stirs in you based on how you spend your time? What do you spend your time doing, and who do you spend your time with?
Yeah.
That's going to help you understand your lens. And then when you're like refocusing, it's not just, how do I make all these things fit into what I say I want to be?
Yeah.
It's,
that's so good.
Oh, wow. You know what? I actually am this, as opposed to this person.
Well, and I think, first off, if you know anybody that needs to hear this, anybody,
Better share it.
You better tell somebody. Somebody don't know about us.
They're going to learn today.
I hope they do. I hope they learn today. But no, I think just kind of closing thoughts. That idea that you have about, just spaced out.
Focus.
Lenses. I distracted myself with too many thoughts. You ever get bombarded by and it was like I was 4 steps ahead, and then I was like, wait, but I got to come back here. Where was I? That idea of identifying your lens.
Yeah.
That takes so much maturity. That takes so much emotional
and energy
and intellectual integrity, because you have to really look at your life. You have to look at how you spend your money. You have to look at how you spend your time. Those 2 things are going to be the telltale signs of what you truly value. And what you value is going to tell you how you see the world.
Mm-hmm.
Because if what you value is primarily entertainment and comfort, then how you view the world is that your primary need is to be comforted, or that you view the world as so harsh and that there's no grace out there, so you have to provide it all for yourself.
Wow.
And so, like, look at how you spend your time, look at how you spend your money. And if you say you value someone or something and they don't rank in time or money, then you don't truly value that, and you have to own up to that in order to correctly shift your lenses.
Yeah.
Otherwise, to use the eye doctor analysis, that's just like saying, oh yeah, I can read that. Well, what does it say? A, G, B, D. No, that's not what it says. Yeah, but sure, I can read it. Like, okay, you're not being honest.
You're in denial.
Yeah, and therefore you're not going to be able to see clearer. You're not going to be able to get to where you need to be.
Yeah.
If you're not honest with yourself.
That's good. I think, like, just on a short personal testimony, the times where I have been the most frustrated in a season, apart from my own, like, having to work through sin issues in my heart and God showing me like, hey, I'm trying to remove this from you. Stop holding on to it.
Yeah.
Have been where I have tried to make certain things the main thing that were not the main thing.
Yeah.
And I feel,
so
I'll feel like this angst inside of me of like, oh, because I'm supposed to be doing this. This is what my heart is really purposed towards. But I'm over here trying to strive to do this for whatever external purpose that I've created in my mind. And so the distraction is this thing, but really, like, it seems like the thing I'm really wanting is the distraction. And I'm like, no, I can't spend my time doing that. I can't spend my time. No, writing music, it's not a real thing.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
When really my heart was like, no, this is what you were created for. You need to put that song on paper. Because until you do, this is going to feel like the biggest distraction to you until you actually shift away from this. And that was where I felt the most freedom, was like, okay, once I got it out, I didn't feel that anymore. And it wasn't because it was like this cathartic, artistic release. It was because my heart had shifted back to really focusing on the purpose.
Yeah. I think the key, discernment factor in that, because that can easily be mistaken, right? If you don't know, if you don't know who you are, and if you don't know where you're going. If you have no idea who you are, then everything seems like it's your heart's purpose, right? And if you don't know where you're going, then any path that shows you an inkling of acknowledgement or of
affirmation,
it's
validation.
going to seem like,
Come
this
on.
must be what I'm for.
Come on.
And so before you switch gears and before you're like, oh, well, then I clearly must, do this other thing that's drawing my attention.
Don't sell everything just to go chase that.
Just yet.
Not yet.
You may have to, but hold on.
Get some confirmation.
Get some confirmation. Seek the Lord in prayer. Get some definite parameters and clearly define your expectation.
Amen.
That's all I got.
Well, I think this has been the NixMyth Podcast.
It has been.
I think it has.
I'm not sure.
Check the logo. I don't know.
It's like down in this area.
Rewind,
it's like on my
listen
forearm right here somewhere. So
this has been the NixMyth Podcast. We hope this episode has connected you
to living truth.
Be blessed.